Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be just working some extra examples with rational functions. We are also going to be adding x-intercepts and y-intercepts, but those are fairly easy, just plugging in 0 and setting the numerator equal to 0. So let's start out with this very first problem. We're going to be finding holes, asymptotes, and intercepts. So let's start with our horizontal asymptote. Okay, horizontal asymptote. And this is going to be, since we have a degree of 2 on the numerator and 2 on the denominator, we're going to use the ratio of the leading coefficients. So our horizontal asymptote is going to be at 4/3. Y equals 4/3. The next thing that we're going to look at is the holes in the vertical asymptotes, but we do need to factor before we do that. So let's start with the numerator here. Notice that all these numbers are divisible by 4, so I'm just going to pull out a 4. We have x squared minus x minus 6. And then in the denominator, we do not have a number that we can pull out of all of these, so we are going to have to factor this one, and we are going to have to factor by grouping. So fun stuff coming your way. So we have 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. And we have a 3 on the front, a 3 on the end, so doing our headphones, 3 times 3 is 9. And I want two factors of 9 that add to give me -10. Factors of 9 are 3 and 3, and then 1 and 9. So we're going to be using -1 and -9. And we're going to have to rewrite -10 as -1 minus 9. -1x minus 9. Okay, so let's rewrite this. 3x squared minus x minus 9x plus 3. And we're going to do our factoring by grouping. So I'm grouping these first two together, then I'm grouping the second two. 3x squared and -x both have an x, so I'm going to take out an x, be left over with 3x. -x divided by x is -1. Got to bring down the sign that's right here, so there was a negative. 9 and 3 are both divisible by 3. 9x divided by 3 is 3x, and then 3 divided by -3 is -1. You know you did this problem correctly if you get to the same factors inside of the parentheses. So here's one of your factors, and then the other factor is just these two numbers right here. So it's going to be x minus 3, 3x minus 1. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this up at the top with our answers. There we go. So we're going to have x minus 3, and then 3x minus 1. Okay, but we're not done yet because we still have not factored the numerator. So the numerator, we do have the 4 out in the front, and we have two factors of -6 that add to give us the number in the middle, which is -1. So factors of -6, and I'm looking over here, factors of -6 are 6 and 1, and then 2 and 3. So we're going to be using 2 and 3. I want -3 and +2. Since there was a 1 in the front, I can just use this little trick here. This one I couldn't because there was a 3 in the front. So we have x minus 3, x plus 2, all divided by x minus 3, 3x minus 1. Okay, we finally have our factored form, and now we can see where one of the holes is. So one of the holes is going to be at x minus 3. So let's rewrite this in its simplified form. 4x plus 2 over 3x minus 1. Okay, so we know that the x value of the hole is going to be where that x minus 3 is happening. So there's the hole at x equals 3 because we want the opposite of that number there. So we're going to have to plug that back into the simplified form. So let's plug it back in to this. Y equals 4 times 3 plus 2 divided by 3 times 3 minus 1. All right, 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. 4 times 5 is 20. And then we have 3 times 3, which is 9, minus 1, which is 8. And we are going to simplify this. So 20 divided by 8 can be reduced to, they're both divisible by 4. So 20 divided by 4 is 5, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the y value of our hole is going to be 5/2. And let's just make some little separation things here. This is all of our extra work that we're doing for this problem. Yes, it is a lot of work. Okay, so we know the x value of the whole, we know the y value of the whole, so let's go ahead and write out the whole. And the whole is happening at the x value of 3, the y value of 5 halves. Then we're going to do the vertical asymptote, and the vertical asymptote is just going to be any factor that's left in the denominator, and the factor that we have left in the denominator is 3x minus 1. We are going to ask ourselves what makes that factor 0, though, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work here. We're setting 3x minus 1 equal to 0, so we would add 1 to both sides. So we get 3x equals 1, and then we divide by 3. So the vertical asymptote is at x equals 1/3. This is another little work bubble over here. Okay, now we're going to find the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. So let's start with the x-intercepts. That is where the numerator is equal to 0. And I can actually do that in the simplified form. So let's just set 4 times x plus 2 equal to 0. We can divide by 4 on both sides first. We're going to get x plus 2 equals 0. And then subtracting 2 from both sides, we're going to get x equals negative 2. And our little work bubble. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do is the y-intercept. And that is where x equals 0. So I'm just going to do it in the simplified form. I'm going to plug in 0. 4 times 0 plus 2 divided by 3 times 0 minus 1. 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 0 is 0 divided by negative 1. So 8 divided by negative 1 is going to be negative 8. So the y-intercept is going to be y equals negative 8. Okay, that problem was quite lengthy, but we are just going to go check our answers in Desmos. So let's go to Desmos and let's just make sure that all of these features actually line up with what we have. So I'm going to go to Desmos. I'm going to type this in. Okay, here's our function. We got a horizontal asymptote at y equals 4/3. You can see that it fills in that gap there. We got a vertical asymptote at x equals 1/3. Also fills in the gap there. We got the we got the whole being at 3 and then 5 halves. So let's just go to 3. And you can see there is a whole there, so let's just check the y value of our whole. We got 3 and then 5 halves. Okay, and you can see that this is exactly where our whole lined up. So if I go back on the green and I drag down, I can see that it is undefined right there where we found that point. So the y value of our whole is correct. And then we also want to check the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And you can just click. So here's where it's crossing the x-axis at -2. So that's the x value of -2. And then we also want to see where it's crossing the y-axis, which is down here at -8. So we got all of our values correct. Yay! Okay, since this was kind of lengthy, I'm going to split this up into 2 videos. So stay tuned for example number 2. Goodbye!